What's going on, everybody? And thank you so much for tuning in. So today I'm excited to be hosting author Mallory Kuhn, otherwise known as MJ Kuhn, author of Among Thieves, which was actually just released in the US yesterday. So MJ, how you doing today?
I am doing great today. I just had a lifelong dream come true yesterday. I'm doing fantastic.
Glad to hear it. I'm sure you're a little bit exhausted from all the festivities that happened yesterday. I mean, you'll probably be even more exhausted tomorrow with the UK release. But how's it going? Are you still riding the high? Are you just like pumped of caffeine? You're like, what's the story behind it?
Like all of the above at the moment. We were talking a little before we officially started recording that I pretty much haven't slept in the better part of a week, but I've had many cups of coffee today and I'm hanging in there.
But to say you're especially cheery today. I would expect you just to be just a little exhausted. I mean, I know you did, the release little video on Facebook last night. I know you've been promoting the book for gosh, it feels like forever. I mean, it's good that you've been promoting it because I mean, I feel like you promote a lot more than a lot of authors that I see. It's very impressive.
I've been driving people nuts, but you gotta do. I if people are annoyed, they can always just keep scrolling. That's what I figure.
Yeah, and I mean, you also started a book talk like several months ago, and you were killing it like super quick on book talk.
Yeah, TikTok has been an adventure for me. So I wasn't going to get one just because I'm old and I felt like I didn't belong on TikTok, I'm an older millennial, it's fine. And then I read that New York Times article that was talking about how authors should really be on TikTok. And I was like, okay, fine. So I did join TikTok and I found this crazy specific niche that I guess is not that specific. Whereas the intersection between books and video games. I started doing recommendations for for books to read based on a video game that you liked. And people just adored those. They were flocking to it. It was so fun to get to communicate with this whole community of people that is just nerdy in all the same ways that I'm nerdy. So super fun.
Yeah. I've noticed, I forgot who it was. There's a blogger that's starting to do it now. It's if you enjoyed this book, you'll play this video game or vice versa. And I think he's doing YouTube videos on it now. So apparently that's just something that you didn't know about. I didn't know about. I mean, I always knew if you enjoyed this TV show or movie that's there, but it's good to see that video games are kind of, I guess, the niche now. And hopefully that brings in a lot more readers. That's the plan, right?
Right. Well, that's been the kind of fun thing is I've had several people comment on a few of my TikTok videos where they're like, I haven't read a book since high school, but I love this game series and I picked up this book and I loved it so much. And you know what I mean? It's just, it's we're bringing people back into the fold, reminding them that reading is fun once you get out of high school.
Yeah, I know. That was the issue that I had is I read a little bit in high school and then didn't read any in college. And I was like, books aren't for me. And then read a couple of books, right outside, maybe a year after college. And I was like, did books get better? Did I, or just not remember it correctly?
Books get better as a whole. They just there was an upgrade. It was a system upgrade. Much better.
Yeah, you hit Y2K and then there was boring for a decade. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, books are great again.
Came out the gate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so interesting because I read a lot of Kuhn and King and stuff in high school, and then of course I read Harry Potter and stuff in elementary school, and then I was just books are for studying when I was in college, and then because it was just all football and partying pretty much, that's what college is for, right?
How it goes.
And then I was like, I need something to do when I'm not working. And
right
outside of TV, I was like, let's pick up a book, and now we're here.
Right. My eyeballs hurt from staring at a screen at work all day. I want to not stare at a screen when I get home. Let me get back into reading.
Oh gosh, right. Yeah. And I mean, since the pandemic, I mean, I've been home for a year and a half and it's just it's all screens all the time. It's working. It's logging, right?
Yeah. Social life on the screen, work on the screen.
Yeah. My wife's like, so what are you doing? I'm like, I'm talking to people on Twitter. Why are you talking to people on Twitter? Do you see me talking to people in person?
Right. I need a social life somewhere.
I know. was like, all my friends are like still in their homes too. So
Right.
yeah, it's just been so weird, but like it's been awesome too. So
Yeah, there have been my introvert heart has had some benefits
yeah.
to being locked in.
Yeah, it's just like slowly like cheering like in the background, because like
Right? Like I
I'm just
want
like
everything to be okay, but I don't want to leave my home ever
yeah,
again.
yeah, like I've been told like keep business as usual, keep working remotely if you need to. I'm like externally I'm like, oh gosh, like I miss like going out to lunch and stuff. Internally I'm like, yes, I can stay in my pajamas.
Right? No more heels for me. I wore heels once. I had to go to a wedding over the summer. I wore heels. It's the only
Oh
time I've worn
darn.
heels since like early 2020. Yeah.
I know. So I had a wedding to go to. I think it was in July, and it's the first time I've actually like dressed up. I think in a year and a half. I mean,
Like, do
like
I remember how to
outside
tie
of
a
like a
tie?
polo, it's outside of like a polo and maybe khakis. Like I wore a suit, and I'm like, what is this? This is weird.
Why did we used to wear these all the time?
I know it's so hot.
I love
Oh
it.
jeez. So kind of I want to start out like I always start out. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about growing up. Did you read a lot growing up? Who were some of your influences? And then kind of how you got into writing.
Sure. So, I grew up in southeastern Michigan, which is where I still live. Not in the same town, but like within an hour of where I grew up. And the fun thing about the Midwest in general is there's not like a ton to do here. So there was a lot of reading going on for me. When I was a kid, I always say like my gateway into fantasy was the Redwall books by Brian Jacques. I was obsessed with them to the point that like my friends and I were like almost a little too obsessed in elementary school. Like we like pretended like we were badgers at recess. Like I wasn't a cool kid, okay? I wasn't cool. But yeah, so that was like my first like gateway into fantasy. And then like Diana Wynne Jones, The Chronicles of Crustomancy. I literally my copy, I don't have it right now to show anyone. I have it out on loan to someone right now, but it is literally held together with duct tape because I've read it so many times that the spine just finally fell apart. And then of course the cheap answer that you have to say Tolkien. I'm a pretty big Tolkien nerd and have been for a super long time. So the movies were actually my gateway into Tolkien. And then I read because I saw the movies when I was like, 8.
Right.
A little too young
as you do.
reading the Fellowship of the Ring. Yeah. So but yeah, that was kind of my like gateway into fantasy and reading. And I just kind of kept up with it and didn't really stop reading obsessively until college when you got busy and things were happening. And then I picked up reading again like maybe a year after college. I'd read The Lies of Locke Lamora in high school, and I finally picked up Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. And that was like my gateway back into reading. That like set me off again. And I haven't stopped reading regularly since.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, same thing with me. The movies were kind of my gateway because like I tried to read the books and it was just so dense for such a young mind,
Well, when you're a kid, well, that's the thing. Like I saw the movies, was obsessed with them, like watched them all the time. I still do, let's be clear. And then I read the books, when I was a little older, like maybe middle school age. And then as soon as I finished reading the books the first time, I'm in maybe 7th grade, and I was like, I'm going to read the Silmarillion. I finally read it.
And then you just slapped yourself with the book.
Yeah, exactly. I finally read it as an adult and enjoyed it. But like I read it in 7th grade. I don't think I comprehended a single word of it.
Your eyes are just kind of like skimming the pages and you're just
like
kind of like, oh, I'm on
like
like page 100 now. This is great.
Oh my gosh. I'm so fast.
So what are you reading? Silmarillion? What do you think of it? I have no idea. I've done it. But I'm 100 pages in.
I don't know. There's some guy. Maybe he's a god. It's unclear.
I feel like that's like how a lot of us read when we were younger. They're like, there's a few that are like, oh, I remember everything. But there are several that were like, I had to do a lot of AR reading when I was in elementary school. So we had to take quizzes on them just to make sure you like comprehended it. And like, there were a lot of the big chunky books. You're like, this one's worth like 30 points. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
but I don't remember any of it. And I failed the quizzes. Like, what's it even worth? So
Right.
I went the easy route and read like, I don't know if you're familiar with Hank the Cowdog. There was like a massive series of these books, but the quizzes were like so easy and you could like binge them like super quick. So I just went that route. I went the easy route and took a ton of quizzes and got like little points that added up.
See?
And then eventually I could comprehend like Harry Potter as I read and listened to it at the same time. Back when you could get the massive like cassette collections.
Oh yeah, the big instead of
you remember those
Audible
days?
account. Yeah, you had like a whole.
It was almost like a VHS case. And it was like 8 or 12 cassettes, and you're like, "Oh, I'm totally gonna get through this."
Like,
at
I
some
got
point.
this. You're on a road trip. You didn't bring enough of the cassettes. Ugh.
Oh,
Should have
no.
brought them all.
Yeah, we're really showing our age.
I know.
Oh my goodness. So as far as writing goes, have you been writing, your whole life? Has it been, I've always enjoyed storytelling, or was it something that maybe came later on, like middle, high school, or even after college?
Like a little bit of both. So I always, like when I was like a kid, like first learning letters, I wanted to write things. Like I was always writing little books on like little folded pieces of papers, books. Like I don't even know, they had no plot, I'm sure. But I was always writing little stories, little poems, things like that. And then like in middle school, I wanted to be an author. High school, I started to go, I should, pursue a realistic career. Like, oh, that's not realistic. Let me do something different. And so I kind of stopped writing for fun late high school and didn't write anything for fun throughout all of college. And then again, like right around the time that I started picking back up reading, it's funny. It was like, I don't know, maybe a couple months into my first like full-time office job. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this for the next 60 years. I
don't know if anybody's ever gotten to an office job and like this is exactly what I had planned for the rest of my life.
Jam.
This is where I die.
I'm in heaven. Yeah. No, but I was like, okay, you know what? Back to plan A. Let's, I didn't quit, the office job. I still have, a regular job. But that's when I started writing like on the weekends and in my spare time again. So that was probably about 2014-ish. And I have not stopped. I've probably written, I don't know, an average of 20, 30 hours a week, every single week since then. So.
Wow. On top of a full-time job.
Yeah. This is why I'm a hermit. It's fine.
This is why I go nowhere.
Yeah. This is why I go nowhere. This is why quarantine, like honestly didn't change my life that much.
I gotcha. So what do you, if you don't mind talking about, what do you do outside of writing?
Yeah. So like for fun or for work?
Both.
Well, for work, I actually, because, stability is overrated. I started a new job a month before my book came out. So I just started a new job 4 weeks ago. Thankfully, my new boss is super cool and was very understanding of my book release and let me have this week off still, which was great. But now I work in marketing, which is cool. I used to work in higher education. I worked in higher education for 7 or 8 years. Which, it wasn't bad. It was all right, just not necessarily the best fit. So that's my day job life. Outside of work, I have 2 pets, my 2 little fur babies. I have a cat, which we were talking about Tolkien. My cat's name is Thorin Oakenshield. And then I have a dog, which we were talking about video games. My dog is not Rex from Mass Effect. So yeah, I do that a lot. I hang out with my pets, hang out with my husband a lot. And, I'm really into kickboxing, which is kind of fun. Reading, and I don't do much, man.
Hey, look, I'm with you. I mean, I've got a 1-year-old now, so I have to like do things. Beforehand, it was like reading, go outside every now and then.
Yeah, I haven't seen the sun in a couple days. Let me.
Yeah. Need to get some vitamins. Is the sun still there? Is it still a thing?
Yeah. Is it still happening? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I have 2 little nieces now under the age of 3. So my sister has 2 kids. And so I do see them quite a bit now too. And so I'm a little more active, like seeing sunlight more. I feel like I sound like a cave person. I don't know.
I mean, but you got the kickboxing, so you balance it out,
Right? At least I'm
You
healthy.
stay active.
I'm healthy in my cave. It's fine.
Yeah. It's just nuts. Like I decided to buy myself a basketball goal last year, like during the pandemic, because like I need something that gets me out because everything else is indoors. Like I love air conditioning, but like I got to get a sweat going at some point. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
so
Because you're in a warm climate too, aren't you?
Alabama.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're in quite a warm
Oh
climate.
yeah, it's gross.
You're like, summer's terrible.
I hate it. I hate it.
I hate it so much.
I love that it affords me time to go to the lake and the beach, but otherwise it can just go die.
Right. That's the only benefit.
Because winter you can always get warmer, and you just you really can't get cooler in the summer unless you just blasting air conditioning in your face.
Yeah,
so.
even then sometimes, man, we've had some, I mean, even in Michigan, which I know is not as hot as Alabama, but we've had some hot days where I'm like in the car blasting the AC, like, and I'm still dying.
Yeah. I got that back sweat,
Yes. Oh my God. Fun. Like sticking to the chair. No, thank you. The worst.
Right. Exactly. So as far as writing goes, how has your writing changed since you first started? Do you find yourself to be a gardener or an architect? And do you feel like you've kind of gotten into a rhythm now of outlining and or plotting? Go.
Go. Yeah. So I definitely have changed my methods. And it's largely because I think maybe like a lot of writers, except for like, I don't know, maybe if you got an MFA or something or had like professional training beforehand. I didn't know how to write a book when I first started writing a book. I just kind of was making it up as I went along. So I tried a couple of the different methods. I tried pantsing. And I know, which I mean, I'm sure your audience is probably familiar, but just in case there's someone watching that's not familiar with what pantsing is, it's like where you discover the story as you're going, instead of planning it out before you start writing. And people who are writers that are pantsers, I swear y'all are wizards. I don't know how it's done. I just ended up with like about 40,000 words of nothing. Like it went nowhere. It just like wound around. So I realized that was not the method for me. I have evolved into like a extreme architect, extreme plotter, super planner. I build out a huge story Bible before I even put pen to paper. So I have character interviews and I have a ton of world building, and then beat by beat plot for all of my plots, character arts, and subplots. And I put it in a big Excel graph and I color code it. It makes my type A brain very happy. And then I get started. So yeah, it's just easier if I realize a story beat's not working. Yeah. It's easier for me to extract it from an Excel file than it would be once I have all the strings woven together in a draft. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it works better for me. I know some people, like I have friends that are big time pantsers that are like, I have to plot, this novel that I'm under contract for, and I am stifled and I'm drowning. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
What's that like?
I'm like, oh, this will be my time to shine finally.
Just tell them I'll do it, and you can just like,
yeah, right.
Push your deadline.
I'll make your outline for you, and then you will probably hate it, and you won't write off of it anyways. That's fine.
So even with all of your outlining and piecing everything together before you start, do you still find like your characters end up telling somewhat of a different story or changing things as you go along?
For sure. So I tend to stick to my outlines in general. However, there definitely are those moments where like once you're actually in the thick of it and you're actually writing the scene, you realize that like something that you've orchestrated just doesn't hit right. You know what I mean? It's not either speaking true for the character now that you've really gotten to know them for, X number of words, or, it feels like it's an emotional beat that's falling flatter than I want it to. So I'm not inflexible with my outline. I'm definitely willing to adjust things and change them as I go. And so I always say I am a bad writer. I'm a good editor. My first drafts are bad. Like they're bad. Objectively, they're awful. And I'll fix it in edits. And so a lot of times I will stick with the outline the whole time through the first draft, just so I can like vomit the story out. Mm-hmm. And then I'll just notate in the draft where I'm like, hey, future me, deal with this. This isn't working. And then I go, past Mallory when I get to that. But yeah, so that's kind of, I do like to let it be a little organic. But drafting is just so painful for me that I have to have a process or else I will not finish the first draft ever. So
I love how you have a future and a past, and why isn't that just like an entire TikTok series?
Right? Maybe it could be. There you go. There's your new TikTok niche.
So you talked a little bit about, the books that kind of got you into reading and then what brought you back around to reading. Who would you say are some of your biggest influences?
Yeah, so I have a lot. I mean, I've read a ton of things. The ones that I mentioned earlier, so Brian Jacques, Diana Wynne Jones, Tolkien, all of them, major influences, just, in the fact that they were the inception of my interest in fantasy. I think it's like kind of not possible to extract myself from that. I think I'm also really influenced by Victoria Schwab. I really like Victoria Schwab's work. And then George R.R. Martin, which I know is like one of the big, the ones that probably everybody says. But for
actually,
me,
no, you may have actually been like one of the like handful of people that has mentioned Martin.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because everybody mentions Tolkien. A lot of people mention Jordan. I'm trying to think of any of those off the top of my head. Those are probably the main two. Sometimes Brooks, a little bit. But yeah, really, like Martin is honestly not one of the ones.
They just like assume everyone's going to say it, and they're like, I'm not going to say it. Or maybe a lot of people don't like him, which is totally fine. But just like for me, I was reading A Song of Ice and Fire. It was like my personal first experience with genuinely not being able to predict like what was going to happen. Not that I have never been tricked by another book, but it was just that there were so many main characters and like all of them sucked so much to different degrees, like morally speaking, that like I really didn't know who was going to live, who was going to die. And that was something that I kind of tried to emulate in Among Thieves. Is that, there's really no good guys in the story. I don't think anyone's irredeemable, but they're not stand-up people. And I think that it makes it a little trickier to guess, who's going to come out on top when there's not a clear like person to root for, So, yeah.
If you went to a pub and had a drink with them, you wouldn't just like, keep your back to them. You're probably going to get stabbed a couple of times.
Keep an eye on them. Make sure you're watching them.
Maybe sit like across the bar from them,
Yeah, right. Like sit in the corner, like Aragorn style with your head in your pipe and just watch them. Yeah, now we're talking.
Don't show them your eyes.
Yeah, don't let them see you.
Oh goodness. So tell me a little bit about Among Thieves. So I know it's been kind of a long time coming. With the release and so forth, but what is it about? What are maybe some comparison novels that you would compare it to, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Among Thieves, they're right here, and like 60 copies back there. It is a fantasy heist novel. So it's been comped a lot to Six of Crows. I've seen it comped to Lies of Locke Lamora as well, which I was stoked when I saw someone comp it to that. Not that I wasn't stoked to see it comp to Six of Crows as well. I've seen it comp to Mistborn in some ways too. I think just because of the fantasy heist element. But yeah, so 6 thieves in the story team up. They are trying to steal this magical artifact from the most powerful man in the world. And they're all going to go together on this heist, but there's a twist. Every single character is secretly planning to screw over everyone else. They all have their own little, sub plan. And you get to see, it's multi-perspective. So you get to see inside everyone's head. And sometimes, one chapter will repeat something you've already seen, but from a different perspective. And you'll kind of see it from the angle of a different character's mini plot. So it was really fun. It was really twisty to write. It's kind of like 6 heists in one, which made editing a bear. But it's meant to be really fun. It's really supposed to be fast paced. I'm hoping it's going to be just like a really when people tell me that they've read it and it was fun, I'm like, yes, like that's exactly what I'm going for. I know like when people say like escapism, it's like a dirty word. Like we all want to be all highbrow and that's great. And I love the super, deep novels as well, but like they don't all like you can just have fun. And that's Among Thieves. I just want it to be fun. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to have, world upon world and all these buildings and 15 pages of expose and all this stuff. You can just have people, just kind of screwing each other over for, 350 pages or so. And it's a lot of fun.
Throw in some witty banter, a few F-bombs, and it's a good time.
A few is putting it very, very lightly.
You have no idea how many I edited out.
Was your editor like, hey, you need to clear some.
You need to scale this back. And
you have 10,000 in here. Clear them.
Right. Are there any other words in this novel?
But really, because I remember, I think you mentioned that to me, or you mentioned it like super early on, that it was full of F-bombs. Was that like a standing thing that your editor was like, you really have to like clean this up a little bit, or they're like, no, bring more on, just keep them coming?
No, they actually didn't say anything. I did clean it up myself before we sent the final, like when they sent me like the last draft where I could make like significant changes. I was like, let me do a Control F and just like see how many are in here.
Literally a Control F.
Literally a Control F to control the Fs. And I think we were triple digis when I did that. And I was like, let's wheel it back a little bit, but they didn't say anything. So, but it's not triple digits. There's fewer.
I mean, there are definitely, works out there that have more and other words. I mean, you got a top 5 and just, pick one and go. No, I remember you kind of making that as a point and when you're in your first promos, and I was like, interesting. I'll have to check it out.
I'm curious. Well, like all the characters are like, rogues and thieves, and
that's
like,
just how they talk. They're
not going to be like, oh, Jiminy, like,
oh darn it,
that's not how it's going to go. Yeah, so you got to be realistic.
They're not all a bunch of badgers,
Right, exactly. Playing around the recess yard. That's not what's happening.
No, I know exactly what you mean though. Going back to your whole Badgers thing, I was not a popular kid either. But most of mine was like video game tailored. Like I played a lot of Call of Duty and Halo and stuff like growing up. So that's all we would talk about is like, oh, are we gaming tonight? What time? And then we would just like go do whatever. We didn't role play a whole lot, but you
were like slightly cooler than me on the
scale
of not cool. We were both not cool, but
okay. I don't know. I don't know if there's a degree of higher like not coolness.
Right.
I think we're all in the same area because we're all below everybody else.
But see, now we're fun and it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're book people and we are surrounded by other book people, and that's all.
Right. And we're all nerds, and it's wonderful.
Exactly. So as far as video games, though, I know you mentioned Mass Effect. So I know Jenny Dewis is a huge Mass Effect fan as well, and I know y'all are pretty good friends. Yeah. Are there some other video games that you talk about on your TikTok that you're a big fan of?
Yeah, I'm a big video game nerd. However, I tend to get like obsessive about certain games, and then like I don't play new ones. So my catalog is like somewhat outdated. But yeah, like the Mass Effect series, I really like. I like the Assassin's Creed games. I've played most of those. Shadow of Mordor, to bring it back to Tolkien, which I know like the really hardcore Tolkien fans want to like burn that game in a fire because they hate it. But yeah. I just think it's fun to like live in the world a little bit, even if it's maybe not canon. Speaking of canon, Star Wars Fallen Order, that one, I love that game. That one's been fun. And then also all the Legend of Zelda games. So people who have seen me on Twitter and stuff, you may know I'm a contributor on another Zelda podcast, which is a podcast about the Legend of Zelda. So check it out. It's a super fun podcast. I'm only on a couple episodes, but like the other hosts are awesome. And it's really fun. We just kind of nerd out about Zelda all the time. So I'm actually, right before I logged into this call, I was playing a little bit of Link's Awakening, the new one on the Switch.
Hey, there you go.
To level my head before the call.
Got to bring it down a little bit.
Yeah, right. With some adorable cartoony Zelda
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I'm big on the Switch now too. That's kind of been like my, if I'm not reading, that's what I'm doing. So it's been a lot of Zelda, a little bit of Breath of the Wild, a little bit of is it Skyward Sword? Is it the new
Oh
one?
yeah, I haven't gotten the new Skyward yet. I
It's
want to though.
different. It's
Yeah.
different. Yeah, but it's good. It's good.
I'm
It's
stoked
just
about the
different.
fact that you don't have to use the motion controls
Yeah.
because that was my biggest complaint. Not that I'm like, oh, I don't want to move when I'm playing video games, but just they were so like spotty. And I just remember falling off of a million of those ropes when you have to balance the Wiimote and just getting really irritated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But yeah, that's kind of been my mode. Like I know like when they had the deals, like I went and bought like the whole Borderlands series because I've been playing it on an Xbox. And I was like, I want to play it handheld. I don't want to play on my Xbox. And then got Diablo 3 because Jenny was like, you need to get it. So I was like, fine, Ultimate Edition. I bought it. And I just like, I don't think I actually saw sunlight for like an entire week playing that game because it was just me in the screen. So yeah. God, I love video games. It just like really
right.
brings me back. But I also love books, and that's what we're here to talk about. Yeah, and you mentioned Assassin's Creed though. I can kind of see, especially like in the cover, I can kind of see the love of Assassin's Creed in that, and even reading it. There's some sleight of hand and some hidden weaponry.
Right. Some sneaky daggers and axes and stuff that we whip out when you're least expecting it.
Yeah. So would you say those played a little bit of a hand in writing? Would you say games were a bit of a influence?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't know if I like consciously was influenced by Assassin's Creed, but like probably because I've been very into those games for a long time. I will say a conscious influence for at least the characters. So the main character in Among Thieves, her name is Raya. She's known as the Butcher of Kerouac. So she's clearly really nice. But she's
the nicest.
Yeah, just like, just sunshine and rainbows. But she's a little rough around the edges, and she is not afraid. She won't pull any punches, right? And I was inspired by Mass Effect for that, even though Mass Effect is very sci-fi, this is very fantasy. But every time I play Mass Effect, almost every time at least, I play through with Renegade Shepherd. So for anyone that's not familiar with Mass Effect, you can choose to make your character either Paragon, which is like you're the knight in shining armor, or Renegade, which is like you are kind of a jerk. And it's just so fun to be kind of a jerk. Sometimes it's like really stressful though, because you have to be really mean to NPCs, and I can't handle that. But in general, just the idea of having this character that like ultimately does some good things, but like is just so awful about it, was really compelling to me. And that was part of my inspiration for the character of Raya. Was
I gotcha.
Renegade Femme Shop. So there you go.
I gotcha. Yeah, I remember playing. Did you ever play the original Fable? I don't know if it was. I guess it was just on Xbox, but you could be like good or you could be evil, and then the more good you were, you got like I think I don't remember if you got angel wings or a halo. I can't remember exactly, but the more evil you did, you got horns, and like eventually your horns like had fire sprouting from it. Like that was like my first like thing about like I really want to be. I mean, to put it, pardon my French, I really wanted to be a dick when I played Fable, and I like just wanted to kill everybody. But like every now and then, I do something like really nice, like save a kitten, or something. But like balance. Really, everybody needs balance. But speaking of your characters, you mentioned everybody like kind of has it out for each other. There's nobody. There are people that are redeemable, but are they going to be redeemable at some point? But like, what was the influence behind like making them all pretty morally gray? And was that like your intention going into it?
Yeah. So it was definitely my intention going into it. I would say my reasoning for this is because to me, at least, and this is not like I will read books where there are clear heroes, and I love Captain America as much as anyone else, right? Okay. But the most interesting characters are the like rogues, are the ones that are kind of a douchebag. Like, okay, who is more interesting as a character, Luke Skywalker or Han Solo? Don't lie to me. Like, it's Han Solo. Like, maybe there's definitely gonna be people that disagree, but like to me, it's just the character that you don't quite know whether you like them or not, and maybe I like them, oh, that was not, oh, but I still kind of like them. I'm so fascinated with characters like that. And I always have been. And so I really wanted to have, just instead of having one or two of them, I wanted a whole cast of them. So you really don't know who you're rooting for, because maybe you're rooting for a couple of them, but they're plotting against one another. So you really can't be rooting for a couple of them, because for one of them to win, the rest of them have to lose. I know I'm hoping that people have fun with that dynamic. I certainly had a ton of fun with it while I was writing it. Also, like, dialogue is my favorite thing to write, especially when people are arguing, and just having all these like really strong, morally gray personalities together on one ship going across the ocean. There was so much opportunity for arguments, and it was really fun to write. So
I gotcha. Yeah, and kind of bringing it back to A Song of Ice and Fire, that's kind of how like I feel about the Hound. A lot of people really kind of fell in love with Tyrion, which you kind of feel for him. I mean, he's not horrible really to begin with, but like, he just kind of gets better and better as it progresses, because everybody's just, again, pardon my French, just shitting on him.
yeah.
But like the Hound is the main thing, is because like you hate him, you're like, okay, maybe he's like turning a corner, and then you kind of start liking him, like, what is wrong with me? Like, why do I like this guy? Jaime Lannister is another one. Like, you hate him at the very beginning, and then you're like, oh my gosh, he's kind of like okay.
So I was late to the game with Game of Thrones. I started watching it maybe at like season 2, and then
late to the game. I watched it starting in season 4. Like, don't even.
Okay, you're a little later than me. But it's like I started watching it at like season 2, so I watched the first season, and then when season 2 was happening, I watched the first season, and then I went back and read all the books, and then I caught up at like season 3 or something. So I was very behind, but I just remember my husband had read the books before I was like watching at all, and I was starting watching season 1, and I was asking him who his favorite characters were, and he said Jaime Lannister, and I was like, this was when we were just dating, and I was like, should I get out of this relationship? Like, is there something wrong with this man?
To go home.
Like, I'm on.
Can you drop me off?
Right. Little did I know, like, 2 books later, that you really do start to like Jaime Lannister. But yeah, at the time I was red flags.
right. Yeah, and that's kind of how my reading's gone as well. Like, I don't I'll read them, but I don't love like the exactly who the good person is and exactly who the bad person is. There's a way to do it that still makes it very interesting, but a lot of the times it's just like, I don't want to know where they stand, because I want it to be a surprise in the end. And that's part of the reason I read grimdark fantasy. Not all of it's that, but you're really at the point where you just don't have any redeemable characters in that subgenre. But I don't love a lot of lighthearted fantasy, because for some reason it's just not for me anymore. Like, I don't know if I'm just like closed myself off to it or not.
You're just jaded now.
I am. I'm like, get it out of my house.
Right.
I only want dark fantasy.
Right.
I only want people murdering each other and cursing and drinking brown ale, because that's all they do.
You know what you want. You have specific book taste. You know what? Nothing wrong with that.
I know. But I say that, but I mean, I still like, go back through Harry Potter every year and stuff like that. So I can't say anything.
Yeah.
But so tell me, what are some books that you've read, I guess this year, or maybe even last year, that you'd recommend?
So I have a lot of books that I've read in the last year.
Yes.
I know. I've been like reading voraciously. That is another like thing that has been kind of like a silver lining about being locked in my house all the time. A lot of reading time. And then it's also been kind of fun. So for the debut authors in 2021, we have like I'll call it a Facebook group, but it's like a support group. Because it's like a stressful process going through the publishing process. And it's been really nice to have just like this cohort of like 300 people that are, all going through the same thing. And so like, I'm one of the admins for that group. So I've been trying to read as many of the like advanced copies as I can. It's why I've read so many, and they're all so good. You guys, 2021 is like fire. This year is insane for fantasy sci-fi reads. But yeah, so we were talking a little bit about Jenny. So JS drew us The Last Watch and The Exiled Fleet. So good. Oh my gosh. It was so funny. So I read an arc of The Exiled Fleet, which is the second book in the series. And the book the actual book came in the mail when it came out, and I opened it up, and my husband was like, "You ordered another book?" And then I showed him what the book was because he'd read the last batch, and he was like, "Oh, mine!" And he took it and he ran away with it. So I still haven't read it yet. He still has it. But so we are both big fans of Jenny in this household. I also, my book birthday twin, Cadwell Turnbull's No Gods, No Monsters. I don't know if you've had the chance to check that one out yet. It's incredible. It's so good. I binge read it in like 2 sittings.
Wow.
Basically, the premise is that we discover, like in the real world, as it currently is, that monsters are real, like werewolves and stuff. And it's like a multi-perspective book where it's just kind of jumps into the heads of a bunch of really different characters and really like diverse and disparate situations, kind of coming to terms with the fact that monsters are real in New York City. So it was fascinating. That one was very good. Also, I read Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long, which is like a Viking inspired fantasy epic, was very good. And The Witch's Heart, which Genevieve Gornichek was nice enough to chat with me last night on Instagram Live for my launch event. And it's a retelling of a Norse myth about Angerboda, who is one of the wives of Loki. So if you're looking for more Loki content after watching the Marvel Loki show, it's a different, portrayal of Loki, but check it out. It's very good. Oh my gosh, there's too many more. I wrote a bunch.
Keep going. Bring it.
I'm just going to list every book on my bookshelf. No, I also read Son of the Storm, which, oh my gosh, I have not seen a like fantasy world that was that like sprawling. It felt huge. The world felt huge and it felt limitless. And I really, really loved that book. And then I also read A Master of Gin by P.J. Lee Clark this summer. And how fun. I think you've interviewed, or your channel has.
Yes.
I think I watched that interview. So I don't know if you've had a chance to pick that book up yet, but it's almost like a crime procedural, but in a fantasy world. Yeah. But in the real world, it's an alternate history, Cairo. It was so good.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read The Haunting of Tramcar 015, but it's really good. It's very similar vibe.
Similar vein. Oh, I gotta check that one out. Cause yeah, I just like devoured this book. It was so good. And then like shippable lesbian main couple. Amazing. It's a big fan. It was so good. And then I also this summer read The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman, which talk about snarky narrators, man. That book was so funny. Like not even just the lines and the dialogue were snarky, but just the way that main character like perceived his
Pinch and the cat. Like
yes. Oh my God. You take a snarky character, you pair them with a cat. Like, did you write this book for me? Like, this is perfect.
I feel like this is almost an attack, but like I want it. Like, bring it.
I know. Like, is this based on me? Like, but yeah, that's I'll cut off there. But yeah, so many good books that have come out this year. It's insane. It's insane.
For sure. So speaking of books, what are you working on now? I mean, I know you still got another pub day to go tomorrow for the Gollancz edition, but are you working on a sequel? Are you working on a book in the same world? Are you working on something different?
Yeah, so I am presently not under contract for any other books, which is a little stressful, but it's also kind of nice because it means I'm not on deadline for anything, which gives me some freedom. So I actually have 4 active projects right now.
Wow.
Yeah, my book got delayed.
Really like to keep things not stressful in this household.
Covering all my bases. Well, my pub date for Among Thieves got pushed by a whole year because of COVID. So like it was done and ready for publication, just waiting. So I had to work on something or else I would lose my entire mind. So I wrote a bunch of books. So one is like a fantasy adventure. I'm planning it as like the first in a trilogy, kind of in the vein of like a Tolkien-y thing. Again, not that I would ever compare it to like actual Tolkien, but just, a group going on a quest through a fantasy land. So that is kind of fun. That's with beta readers right now. I do have another book in the same storyline as Among Thieves. So anyone who has finished Among Thieves will know that it is standalone, but is definitely left open for more tale. And I definitely have more story to tell. So I'm hoping that I can get that picked up, but my agent and I have been working on that. And then I also have an unrelated, another heist book that I've been working on that's in a different world. And then just another smattering of story ideas that take place within the Among Thieves world, but are not part of the storyline that appears in Among Thieves. So I'm just like scattershot everything.
So I don't have a whole lot going on,
Whole lot. Yeah.
not all of these things. Yeah.
Right. So eventually, hopefully, you will see one of those things coming toward you.
So let's get an up close showing of the cover again for Among Thieves. Boom. So there's your US edition. You've got the lovely UK back there with the yellow spine.
Damn. Yeah, look at that. Oh,
I know.
I'm obsessed.
Pops.
So pretty. It does. Like imagine that on a shelf. Ooh.
I know. Well, MJ, I really appreciate you to coming and chatting with me today. I'm glad to get to know you finally. I know we've talked a good bit on social media, just kind of about the book and about your process. But it's really nice to be able to actually talk to you in person.
In person, as much in person as we really get these days, honestly.
Exactly.
But yes, I agree. This has been really nice. I feel like we have gotten to know each other like through Twitter and stuff for the last year or so. But it's been super nice to actually chat with you face to face.
Absolutely. And congratulations on the US pub yesterday, and best of luck tomorrow. Try to get some sleep at some point this week.
We'll see.
Give your coffee maker a break.
Right, maybe. Yeah, no more coffee this afternoon for me.
Yeah, and best of luck with all of your potential endeavors. Best of luck shopping everything around, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me on. This has been super fun.
Absolutely. Thanks.